I'm going to open two Guildpact booster packs. Just as in the case of the Ravnica booster pack that was filmed before this video, these $10, $13, $8, $7 booster packs are a little bit of a lottery ticket. They're still interesting to open, but especially in the case of Ravnica at $13, that's probably the last time I'll do that. And in the case of these that are more like $10, $8, $9, depending on when you buy them, I'll probably open one or two more, but not, I think they'll call that it. Especially when you can buy, you would typically get a semi-playable rare out of these cards anyways, that you can buy for 50 cents or $1. So this is a guilty pleasure to indulge in a few times for the sets that have expensive packs. So let's go through the first pack. Gruul Scrapper. It's a Gruul creature. It's got green and red. And it's a 4 for 3/2 at common. And it can gain haste in the ability. Gruul Signet, which I have from a bunch of commons that I bought recently. Pyromatics, a 2-drop, has Replicate. When you play the spell, copy it for each time you paid its Replicate cost. You may choose new targets for the copies. And Pyromatics deals 1 damage to target creature or player. There have to be a lot of things to copy on the board. Infiltrator's Mage Mark, which I also have from those junk commons that I bought recently. Creatures you control that are enchanted get +1/+1 and can't be blocked except by creatures with Defender. Again, like a card with an artifact effect, your opponent has to have those kinds of cards. So here you have to play against somebody with creatures with Defender. If not, this thing is sitting in your deck basically unused. Absolver Thrall, a 4-drop 2/3. It's got Haunt. When this card is put into a graveyard from play, remove it from the game, haunting target creature. When it comes into play, or the creature it haunts is put into a graveyard, destroy target enchantment. Seems like something that you'd have to control a lot during a game. Seems like a complicated ability to my naive mind. Scrap Clan Mauler. It's a Gruul, red-green. It's got Bloodthirst 2. If an opponent was dealt damage this turn, this creature comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's a little bit like Exalted. Then you've got Silhana Lechwalker. It's a 2 for 1/1, an elf, so it'll be good for a tribal deck. Can't be blocked except by creatures with flying. And can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponent controls. That's pretty good. I think that's really hexproof. Train of Thought, a blue 2-drop sorcery with Replicate. It's a cantrip. You can draw a card. When you play this spell, copy it for each time you paid its Replicate cost, which is a 2-drop Replicate. Restless Bones. I'm partial to these black cards. This is a very pretty card. And it's a 3-drop 1/1 with an additional 4. The target creature gains Swamp Walk until end of turn. I think it means it can only be blocked by creatures that are not black and not artifacts. I'm not correct. If I may be wrong about that. And then you can regenerate it with 2. Bit of a heavy drop. Fencer's Mage Mark, Enchantment Aura for 3. Creatures you control that are enchanted get +1/+1 and have first strike. That's good if you have a bunch of creatures. I could see that being useful. You'd have to basically build a deck around it. We Dragonauts, which I have from the junk commons. It's a 3-drop Izzet card. It's got flying. 3/1/3. Very defensive creature. Whenever you play an instant or sorcery spell, this card gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So if you have a deck that's got a bunch of instants and sorceries like you would in some of these Delver decks that were popular recently, I could see that card being useful. Revenant Patriarch is the uncommon. It's an Orzhov card. Very interested in Orzhov because after Magic 2013, you have all these exalted creatures that are either white or black. I may be interested in pulling a modern deck with Orzhov. When this card comes into play, if 1 white mana was spent to play it, target player skips his or her next combat phase, and this creature cannot block. I could see that being useful. It's a spirit, but it's a 5-drop, 5/4/3. So it's a mid to late game creature. Battering Worm, very heavy, 7/4/3 with Bloodthirst 1, effectively exalted. Creatures with power less than Battering Worm's power can't block it. Not exactly exalted because you can play it with other cards. In exalted, you can only attack with 1 creature. Still, looks a little heavy. Is that Guildmage, which I think we're going to be getting in Gatecrash. They could give that creature a different name. Or, no, we should have gotten it in Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, sorry. Either way, it's a 2/2/2 and it's a hybrid. Looks like a useful card. All the Guildmages also in Return to Ravnica are uncommon. And then Cerebral Vortex. It's an instant. Izzet. 3-drop. Target player draws 2 cards, then Cerebral Vortex deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards he or she has drawn this turn. So you could also play yet another card that forces your opponent to draw cards, like Duress, and then you would hit your opponent with something, with damage. Shrieking Grotesque, definitely a junk common. It's a 3 for 2/1. It's got a black ability, so it's an Orzhov card. When it comes into play, if you've played a swamp, target player discards a card. Necromancer's Mage Mark. It's a 3 enchantment aura, 3-drop enchantment aura. Creatures you control that are enchanted get +1/+1. So you'd have to enchant all your creatures to get benefits out of this one. If a creature you control that's enchanted would be put into a graveyard, return it to its owner's hand instead. I think we talked about Gruul Scrapper before. Gruul Turf, the equivalent of the modern Guildgates, a common land. Pillory of the Sleepless, a common, an Orzhov card, enchant creature. It can't attack or block. An enchanted creature has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. That could be useful, especially if you drop more than 1 of these. Torch Drake, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you add 1 red. It's a 4-drop 2/2. It's not that great. It's a common. I think I have it from my junk commons little buy. The same with this one. Roomboggle. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. Draw a card. 3-drop. Gruul Norderog. It's a 6/4/4. It's Gruul, so it's red-green. Can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. Reads like a limited card. Definitely an ability that we put a common. I think we have this other card already. Poison Belly Ogre, 5/3/3, a common. Whenever another creature comes into play, its controller loses 1 life. I love whenever a card says whenever. Didn't mean to say that twice. So whenever another creature comes into play, its controller loses 1 life. But it applies to both players, so you'd have to be careful with that. Leap of Flame, it's a common. It's got Replicate. So when you play it, you can copy the spell and choosing your targets for it. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains flying and first strike until end of turn. It's a 2-drop, so it's an instant. The uncommon is Feral Animist, a goblin, with an additional 3, so it's a 3/2/1. Not that great for an uncommon. If you place 3 more, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is its power, that is 2. But if you add something else to it, like an enchantment aura, that X could be bigger than a 2. I don't know. Droning Bureaucrats. It's a 4-drop 1/4. Each creature with converted mana cost X can't attack or block this turn. That could be useful if your opponent has many creatures with the same CMC. I'm not sure that that's often the case. Primeval Light is a sorcery, a 4-drop. Destroy all enchantments target player controls. It's kind of like a Naturalize, which is a 1 plus green, which destroy enchantment, and something else, artifact or enchantment, if I remember correctly. But you can do all. Then the rare is a foil Rumbling Slum. At the beginning of your upkeep, Rumbling Slum deals damage to each player, deals 1 damage. Now, when I show these cards, I never look at the cards until I put them on in front of the camera, and I hadn't noticed. Of course, I didn't notice that I had a nice foil rare, and so yeah, that's a very pretty card. It's at least pretty, and it is a foil rare. It's a 4-drop 5/5. That already looks good. It's an elemental, and it's a Gruul because it's green red. And so at the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 1 damage to each player. Reads a lot like a good a commander card, because every one of your opponents is going to get hit for 1 every time you begin your upkeep. Reads like a really nice card.